guys, so now we're on Unit 1, Lesson 5 notes, monomials and polynomials. So, first thing, like always, we're going to talk about vocab first, because if you can't understand the vocab, you won't be able to answer any of the problems. So, with monomials and polynomials, first thing we're talking about is what a constant is. So, a constant is just a number. That's it. Next, we're going to talk about what a coefficient is. So, a coefficient is the number in front of a variable. So remember, guys, when we talk about a variable, that's going to be any letter that we put in. So our x, our a, anything like that. The coefficient is simply the number that we place right in front of it. So if we had 2x, that's going to be our coefficient. So just a number in front of the variable. The next one we're going to talk about is what a monomial is. So mono usually means one, so it's going to be the product of numbers and or variables. So the product of numbers and or variables put together is what a monomial is going to be. A degree is our next vocab word, and degree is the sum of exponents per monomial. So our degree is usually going to be up at that top. It's going to be the exponent. So you can actually add those exponents together, so the sum of the exponents, and that's going to be your degree. So, guys, now that we have this basic vocab down, we're going to go over the rules for monomials and polynomials. Okay, so our first rule is going to be down here at the bottom. Okay, so our first one we see is a with our little degree of m times a n equals a m plus n. So you see our exponents are getting added together. So if we're going to show this example, we're going to see our x up 2 plus our x, and then our y of 3, and then our y 4. So we're going to just add those together. And your 2 and 3, you're just going to multiply like normal. So you see I've got my plus signs and my multiplication. So you've got 2 and 3 is 6. Our x and x, you've got 2 and 1, so you're going to add those together, and you're going to get a 3. Then you get your y and your y3 and y4, and you're going to get y7. So guys, the big thing on this is if you see no exponent above, that just means it's 1. So what we're going to do is you multiply big numbers. That's going to be our 2 and our 3. And then you add small numbers, so our little exponents. So we added our 2 and our invisible 1, and then we added our 3 and our 4. So now let's go to our next rule. That's going to be a m over a n. So that means we're actually going to be subtracting the m from the n. So we've got our big numbers. We're going to divide those first. Then on each one, we're going to be subtracting. So we get 3, because 24 divided by 8 is 3. We're going to leave that up top. We've got x4 and x1. Remember, we got that invisible 1. So we're going to subtract 4 and 1. That's going to give us 3. So we're going to leave it up top, x of 3. Then we have our y's, and we've got a 3 and a 6. So you notice our 6 is on the bottom. So we're going to do 6 minus 3, and that's 3. But because our bigger number's on the bottom, that's where we're going to leave it, so that it can be a positive number. So we're going to have y over y cubed. And then we have our z, which is by itself, so we still leave it as z cubed on the bottom. This makes it stay the same. So we have divide big, and then subtract small. Just the exact same way. We're going to just divide big, subtract small. It's just the opposite of what we did before. So multiplication and division. Now we're going to look at our third one. We've got a up negative n. Okay, so what I talked about before is that we want it to be a positive. We want positive numbers. So we actually just drop that to the denominator because we don't want a negative. So this one's going to be a little different. So we have a 1 over a sub n. All you're doing is moving it to the bottom to make your life easier. You're moving it to the denominator. So if we see a negative number, we just move it down to make it positive. So that gives us a of 4 over b to the 7th. Next one we're going to have is we have our a to the m, and then the whole equation to the n. So we actually going to multiply those two together. It's like we're distributing in. So we've got c up 5, up 3. So we end up with c up 15 because we just multiply the two exponents together. Our next rule is ab up m. So we just distribute it in just the exact same way. So it's going to be a to the m and b to the m. So we're just distributing that 3 in when we're on this next equation. So 3, our exponent 3 goes to 5, our exponent 3 goes to 4, and our exponent 3 goes to 2. So that gives us 5 to the 3rd, a to the 12th, and b to the 6th. Simplify that down a little bit more, and we get 125, a to the 12th, b to the 6th. Okay, our next rule. It's going to be the same thing, but we have a fraction. So that means that we have a to the m over b to the m. So we're still distributing, but we have to distribute to the top and the bottom. So on this one, we've got 2 to the 3rd, y to the 2 times 3, 3 to the 3rd, and z times 3 to the 3. So you get 2 to the 3rd, y to the 6th, 3 to the 3rd, z to the 9th. Then that equals us y to the 6th over 27z to the 9th. Okay, our last one, which is also going to be a little weird. That's why I'm going to put another star by it, just like I put a star by the other one. So guys, you see an a to the 0. 0 power is always going to be 1. So 5 to the 0 is 1. Negative 5 to the 0 is 1. But we have a difference here. So if the negative is outside of the parentheses, what would be right there, it's actually going to be 1, and then you add on that negative. So now we're going to walk through some examples and simplifying these equations. So our first one, we're going to distribute the whole way through because you see those parentheses. So we've got our 2, we've got our a, our b squared, and then we have a c. So our 2 and our negative 4 go together. Then we have a to the 1 and a to the 3rd. So we're going to have negative 8, a to the 4th, because you are adding those a's together. Okay? So then we're going to end up with a to the 4th just right there. So then let's look at our b's. We have b to the 2nd and b to the 3rd. Remember, we add together those exponents in this one. So it's going to be b to the 5th. Then we have 1c by itself, so that gets us just c to the 1st. Negative a to the 4th, b to the 5th, c to the 1st. So this one, remember our parentheses, we're going to distribute that exponent in. So it's going to be 3 to the 3rd, which is 27, x to the 6th, because you multiply that 2 and 3 when you distribute. Our next one is x to the 11th over x to the 5th. Remember, when we've got division like this, we're going to subtract 11 minus 5 and get x to the 6th. Next one we have is going to be, we're going to distribute that 3 into the exponent, and then we're going to actually distribute the whole thing. So we get 6x to the 2nd, y to the 3rd, x to the 3rd, y to the 3rd, z to the 3rd. Then we're going to be adding these together because we're multiplying. So 6 is by itself. Then we have x to the 2nd, x to the 3rd, so that'll give us x to the 5th. Y is going to be added, so we got y to the 3rd, y to the 3rd, that'll give us y to the 6th. And then our z by itself gives us y to the 3rd. On our next example, we're going to distribute that negative 3 exponent in. So we're going to have 6 to the negative 3rd, a to the 9th, because when you do negative 3 times negative 3, you get 9. Then we get b to the negative 6th, because 2 times negative 3. Now, you're going to look at this and say, okay, we're done. But we talked about this. Simplifying means we don't need negative exponents in the top. We don't want to see negative exponents. That means we're going to shift things around. So we're going to have a to the ninth because that's positive, and then we're going to drop the negatives down to make them positive. 6 to the third, b to the sixth. So we're going to get a to the ninth over 6 to the third, which is going to be 216, b to the sixth. This is going to give us our full equation and make it super simple. So all we did was drop those negatives to the denominator to make them positive so we could have a simplified problem. Okay, so our last one. The first thing we have to do is distribute that 2 exponent into everything. So we get 3 to the second, x to the 6th, because you multiply them, y to the 12th, over x to the 10th, because it's going to be 5 times 2, y to the negative 4th, because negative 2 times 2, and then z to the negative 2, because negative 1 times 2. So again, we have to simplify. So I said when we had a negative in the top, we would put it to the denominator. But if we have it to the bottom, we're going to do the exact opposite and flip it to the top. So we'll have 9, because 3 squared. And we've got x to the 10th and x to the 6th. So subtracting will give us x to the 4th on the bottom. Y to the negative 4 and y to the 12. We have that negative, but we want it to go to the positive. So we're going to just take it on to the top and add it to it. So it's going to be y to the 16th. Then we're going to move our z up and give it z to the 2nd. So we've done the basic now. Now we're going to take it to a diagram. So we got the area of a triangle below is represented by 14x to the 4th, y to the 9th. Find the base. So first thing we have to remember is the area of a triangle, which is area equals base times height divided by 2. So we know that the area is 14x to the 4th, y to the 9th. And we know that the height is 7x squared y to the 5th times b squared, divided by 2. So first we want to get that 2 to go away. So we're going to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of that lovely little fraction. So multiplied by 2, those are going to cancel. Then multiply by 2 on this side, and we're going to get 28x to the 4th, y to the 9th. Then we know it's b 7x squared y to the 5th. We want those to go away, so we're going to divide that on both sides to cancel and leave b by itself. So we're going to have 7x squared y to the 5th. Then we're going to do our same tools we've already been doing. So 28 divided by 7 is going to give us 4. Then we have our x to the 4th, x to the squared. That's just going to subtract, and we're going to get 4x to x squared. And then the same thing, we've got 9 and 5, so we're going to subtract, and we're going to get y to the 4th. And we're going to put units so that we have our correct things for the base. And that's going to be that equation in full.